heart of Tiger Nation, this is where the insiders talk. Real stories, real access, and the pulse of Memphis athletics. You're tuned on beat with BCM. Now, let's get to the show.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of On Beat with BCM here on the Bluff City Media Network. I am Memphis Tigers men's basketball beat reporter for Bluff City Media, Roman Cleary, and I am joined, as always, by our women's beat reporter, Shemaria Wiseman, and our football insider, Sam Shoemaker. Now, we obviously have a lot to discuss here today, but first off, Sam, it was a pretty big week for you outside of the Memphis football beat overall, running the St. Jude Marathon this weekend. And then I believe it was Sunday night you made the announcement that you were going to be the executive editor for the Daily Helmsman, the University of Memphis student newspaper. Congratulations on that. So just kind of walk us through the eventful week it's been for you.
Roman, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm definitely excited to get to work with the Helmsman. Super storied paper. You know, there's a lot of, I guess, history that comes with that executive editor position. Really excited to be able to, just mentor some people and show people what Memphis is all about. Speaking of what Memphis is all about, I think St. Jude. I'm not a runner. I'm not an athletic freak. Definitely not. We've had this conversation. But I got to run the St. Jude Marathon, the half marathon. Just so cool being down there, seeing those kids, and just the St. Jude Marathon represents everything I love about this great city. So, yeah, definitely a really cool week for me. And just St. Jude itself is just such a cool week for the city of Memphis.
Yeah, no, I've gotten to have a few cool experiences with St. Jude over the past couple of years, covering the Hoops for St. Jude Tip-Off Classic exhibition last couple of years, as have you, Shemaria. Actually got an opportunity to tour the St. Jude campus with a couple of media members a few months ago, and we saw all sorts of really cool stuff. And it's just, when you're in that environment, it's really eye-opening, awing, humbling in a lot of ways. So it's just really, really awesome to have that in the city. I've actually worked the St. Jude Marathon a couple of times back at student council functions in high school. I've never ran it and never will run it. So I admire people.
You should run it. Run it with me next year, Roman.
Obviously I couldn't run it this year because of Memphis Baylor, but I doubt I foresee myself running it at all. Shamar, are you going to run it ever? You think you will?
I think I will, because lately I've been incorporating, treadmill stuff, doing I did like a 5K thing for like a month type of thing. So I think, I do want to challenge myself and do a marathon for sure.
Yeah. Sam, how far did you run? Like, what did you do?
I did the half marathon, but I think the course was a little long because the half marathon's 13.1. But I ran, my Strava app told me I went 13.8. But we got it done. It wasn't easy, but we got it done. Can still feel it in my legs, and that was about 4 days ago. So,
well, Ed Scott and the University of Memphis football program also got it done this weekend. The coaching search is over, and they have named former Southern Miss head coach, former Marshall head coach, Charles Huff. He is the new head man for the University of Memphis football program, and in a lot of ways, it is arguably the most accomplished hire the football program has made, considering everything that Huff's done throughout his career, working with Saquon Barkley at Penn State, working under Nick Saban in Alabama, winning the Sun Belt with Marshall the year before last season, I guess, still 24-25, you can still call that last season, and then taking Southern Miss from 1-11 the previous year to 7-5 this year, and that included a 7-2 start before they kind of tampered off towards the end of the season. So, Sam, we'll start with you. Just give us – we were obviously both at the introductory presser earlier, but before we get to that, just give us your initial thoughts and reactions to the hire.
Yeah, we spent about 2 hours listening to Charles Huff and Ed Scott earlier today, Roman, and I don't know about you, but I'm about ready to run through a brick wall. You talk about how important it is. I think Dr. Scott touched on it, how important it is to win the press conference, right? And I would say Charles Huff definitely did that today. We can get more into what we saw later. But just on the hire itself, this is the most accomplished hire in Memphis football history, just looking at the resume. The Nick Saban factor is enough to get most people to buy in. And then when you add in just who Charles Huff is he said He said, I'm here to close the gap. I think that was a quote. Like, the mission is to close the gap because Memphis has been good. They've won a lot of games. It's time to win a championship. And that's when everyone, because, a couple hundred Tiger fans there, cheerleaders, players, that's when everyone got riled up when he said, I'm here to close the gap. He said it's the first time he's ever come into a program that wasn't broken because Memphis has had such a level of stability the past decade, right? And just Charles Huff, it's hard to say this is like a crazy out of the box home run hire. This was one that was kind of staring you down the face because Huff, if Memphis didn't hire him, someone was going to, whether this year or next year, because he's just a good coach. He has a good track record. He's worked his way up. And I think it was very wise for Memphis because they're such a stable program to go and grab a sitting head coach, not to go and grab a young, hotshot defensive. I know everyone wants the offensive coordinator that's going to score 60 points a game. While Huff can score, Southern Miss averaged 15 points a game last year for the 1-11 team. Now they're averaging 30 points a game, right? Huff's offenses historically can score points. But at the same time, done it before. He talked about how much he believed in himself. My favorite one, before I throw it back to you, was he said, Kurt Signetti said it best, Google me. Because Huff called himself the best hire that the American made in this coaching cycle because he's confident
he did.
He's done it before. The other coaching hires we can get into later in the American haven't done it before. And that gives Memphis an advantage.
Shemaria, you're obviously super tapped in on the women's basketball beat right now. They're still very much in season. You don't have as much time to, tap in on the Memphis football stuff. But seeing what you saw from Charles Huff today and looking at the basic resume that I'm sure you've seen at this point, what does this hire do for you?
I think Memphis is in for a good ride. I think the biggest thing coming out of the press conference is that he gave confidence, gave a fire to this Memphis Tigers team. One of the biggest things that he said was, why Memphis? And he was like, why not Memphis? And when he was asked, why are you here? His answer was simply, I'm here to win a championship. It was no fluff behind anything he was saying. And he's the type of coach that doesn't sugarcoat anything from what I got. He's not selling any dreams. And I just love the analogies that he used, specifically the Tigers are apex predators, top of the food chain. That's the mindset he's coming with. And yeah, I think it's a good one. He's establishing Memphis as the predator and not the prey. I think it's going to be a good season. I think that Ed Scott made a great selection.
Yeah, I was going to initiate this conversation already, but it seems like we've kind of already gotten to it. Of course, Memphis held the introductory press conference for Charles Huff earlier today. We got, I think I want to say probably 50 combined minutes of Charles Huff sound bites when you combine what he said in front of the fans and the media and then the private media press conference that we had with him afterwards. And you can tell that he takes this side of it very seriously. I mean, you talk about winning the press conference. He did that in about the most impactful way that I'd say you could. It reminded me a lot of Ed Scott's press conference, honestly.
Yeah.
From last summer. He hitting all the right notes, saying all the right things there. Just, the why not Memphis, why not now lines and things of that nature. Just, it seems like we got another quote machine on our hands here from a media standpoint. One thing that stood out to me from, I guess, an on-field perspective, he was asked about the type of football team and the kind of offense specifically that Memphis is going to be running. And I don't know about you, Sam, but it sounds a lot more reminiscent of what we maybe saw before in the Justin Fuente, Mike Norvell days, where he wants to run more of that up-tempo, high-speed type of offense where, they're rushing up to the line, not a lot of huddles, not really going to be taking up too much of the play clock on a down-to-down basis, and really trying to keep the defense off balance there with, again, the tempo and the speed. And that's obviously really where college football is going nowadays. Memphis, I think, was kind of ahead of the curve with that in the 2010s, and now you see that type of offense being run, across the board, even in the SEC. Like the SEC, and Huff kind of said this earlier, like college football is not, the 7-3 game anymore, right? It's not this ground and pound defensive style. It's high scoring, it's explosive, and Memphis was there for a long time. They went away with that, I think, with Ryan Silverfield, and now it seems like Charles Huff wants to get Memphis back to playing that type of football there.
Yeah, you talk about him just being a quote machine. Like, we talked about how disinterested fans were, right? Now, if
Mhm.
you're a media member or you're a fan right now and you're talking bad about Charles Huff and you're saying, I don't believe in Charles Huff because of this, you might be right, but I would say you're just trying to be different, right? Charles Huff might not work out. That's certainly a possibility, but you have no reason to believe that, right? Now, there's always fans always hold like an optimism bias, right? They always think their team's going to do better than everyone else. Usually, not all the time. I know we have some pessimists around here, but you assume that everything that could go right is going to go right as a fan because that's what you're supposed to do, right? We're here to have fun. We're here to watch sports and have fun. The thing about this Huff hire, because coming off the back of Silverfield, we got about an hour worth of Charles Huff sound bites. It was just banger one-liner after banger one-liner, right? Silverfield, no disrespect to him, he's in the past. He could talk for an hour and not say anything. Huff took extreme accountability. And although, it's the preseason, we haven't seen him play any games. We'll see who he really is after he loses a game or two, right? And then how he responds then. That's adversity shows who someone truly is. But he talked so much about taking accountability. And that's something I think is really going to excite Memphis fans. And selfishly, from a media perspective, I'm really excited to cover Charles Huff. And maybe because he wins, maybe because he doesn't, but because who he is as a coach and who he is as a person. I think that mood is going to excite Tiger fans a lot more than the runaround that they've gotten for the past 6 years.
Yeah. Just to give you guys a bit of insight here, the press conference with Huff was not supposed to go 33 minutes like it did.
No.
They tried to cut it off a little after 20, and Charles Huff made it a point to be like, no, I'm going to answer the questions of everybody who raised their hands in the room.
Right. And that's Scott move.
Yeah. It certainly is. But, that seemed like a call that Huff made on the fly. It didn't really seem like he was told to do that. This seems like a guy who understands the type of messaging that I think Memphians want to hear, because he said it himself during the press. You have to have a certain type of mold and a certain type of mentality and attitude if you're going to coach in Memphis. You can't just come out here and say the basic coach speak stuff, because Memphians are going to see right through that. They're going to scoff at it and dismiss you. And I think that's part of why anyway, that they grew so tired of Silverfield over time, because when you combine the lack of results on the field and the fact that he's not really saying anything substantial to take account for them off the field, you're going to get hostility. You're going to get, after that, just an indifference for a lot of people. So if you want a guy that's going to bring the kind of energy and moxie to bring people back in, Charles Huff, at least that first impression, seems like a guy who's going to be more than capable of doing so.
Right. He definitely brings a... Sorry, go ahead, Shemaria.
No, he's got a resume that backs up what he said in the conference as well. So, I mean, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cool point. Like, he's not just pulling anything out of his butt. He's done it, right? He's done it before. Now, maybe he hasn't done it to the level he's been talking about doing it. He hasn't made the college football playoff. But you're right. He has a certain swag that he's just bringing back to the city, a confidence, a genuine confidence. You know what I mean? It's not a made up confidence because he's done it. I love that. The thing, it was what we talked about earlier with the Tiger Apex. The thing that I guess got the crowd the second most riled up was just to spot the ball. We'll play anyone. Yeah. He was talking about just scheduling in general. He said, it doesn't matter who we play. Spot the ball. We're trying to win a national championship, or he said, we're trying to win a championship, probably referring to the conference. And when we do that, guess who we're going to play? We're going to play Oregon. We're going to play Georgia. He would just get people riled up. And me as a unbiased media member, I'm inspired to go be great at whatever I'm doing because of Charles Huff. And if I'm doing that, imagine what his players are doing. Roman, do you know the quote off the top of your head that he said about Michael Jordan? He said, Michael Jordan doesn't have a gambling problem. He has a competition problem.
Yeah. Gambling from not a
just
competition. He referenced
yeah,
Michael Jordan. He referenced Kobe
yeah,
a couple
Kobe
times.
Bryant, right?
No,
And we could spend
his father was a women's basketball coach, so
right,
pretty obvious that
right,
the basketball references are definitely
yeah.
prevalent there.
He said he used to think the whistle was magic because people listened to the whistle, and we're bringing up all these one-liners, we're bringing up all these cool points about who Charles Huff is, what he stands for. At the end of the day, we could go 2 hours talking about this press conference because there was that much good one-liners, and that's really easy to buy into if you're a fan, and that's what this program was missing. So, if you're a fan and you didn't catch it, I would encourage you to go on Twitter and at least look at some quotes or the pressers on YouTube. Because Charles Huff, there's just a lot of room for optimism here because he's done it before and he's taken accountability, and that's something you haven't had in the past 6 years.
Yeah. Sam, you touched on it earlier. He had, in my opinion, the most interesting thing he said was towards the end when he just flat out said that I am the best hire in the American Conference coaching cycle. And you can view that as whatever, but if you compare his resume to that of everyone else who was hired in the league, it's hard to argue with him, at least when you look at it on paper. Brian Hartline is obviously the big hotshot name coming in from Ohio State, South Florida, getting that one, but he's never had any real head coaching experience before. Tulane promoted like their pass game coordinator.
Yeah.
Tulane.
Something. It might not even have been someone with that prominent of a job. I remember I was a little surprised.
Yeah. I think his name's Will Clark, right?
Right.
Yeah, they promoted Will Clark. I believe it was their pass game coordinator, and he failed as a head coach somewhere else beforehand. So it doesn't seem like Tulane handled their search very well.
He was the Southern Miss. He was previously the Southern Miss head coach. Went
that's
1-11.
That's right.
And Huff took over and changed the program.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's the one who went 1-11 at Southern Miss.
Yep.
And then Huff had to fix
everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's who Tulane hired. Mm-hmm. And then UAB got a solid guy as well. But if you look at Charles Huff's resume, what he's done, you can see that it's not just all talk. Mm-hmm. He did more with less at Marshall. And then he did more with arguably even less at Southern Miss. I know some people who have disapproved of the Charles Huff hire. They're saying, oh, he went like 7-18 or whatever it was against under 500, against above 500 teams. He's basically Silverfield 2.0. But the big difference that I think a lot of people are neglecting here is that Charles Huff does not have the type of NIL and revenue sharing resources at a Marshall or a Southern Miss that Ryan Silverfield does at Memphis. Memphis is the highest funded G5 football program in America. Mm-hmm. Southern Miss, Marshall, they're not even close to that, right? So if you look at it from that lens, it's quite frankly astonishing that Charles Huff was able to do what he did at both of those places, winning 17 combined games over the last 2 years. Again, at Marshall, he was a 10-game winner and a Sun Belt Conference champion. And you go back to what he did before he became a head coach. Everyone saw the quotes about, from Nick Saban. Everyone saw the quote from James Franklin. Again, helping and playing a key role in developing Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in the NFL right now, Super Bowl champion, rushed for 2,000 plus yards last year. So if you check all those boxes on the Charles Huff resume, it may not have been the flashy hire or the big name that some Memphis fans might have been looking for, but it might be every bit of a home run.
Right. And the thing about this Memphis coaching job, Scott talked about it. Hargrave, I think, talked about it. Huff definitely talked about it. This is a really attractive job for many reasons. He talked about how it's the homecoming queen because it looks really good outside looking in because Huff hasn't really experienced it yet. He said, I think he made the comparison of, maybe you get close to her and her breath smells a little funky, because he was talking about maybe he'd get in the program and he'd see those spots he needs to fix. But outside looking in, Memphis is a really attractive job because here's the secret, and this might be ill-advised to say, or I may not know what I'm talking about, but Memphis just doesn't seem like that hard of a job to win at, right? Because
it really doesn't know.
Right. Roman, you made a fantastic point. Huff has always done more with less. Now he has more. What's he going to do now? And that's why there's such a room for optimism with this guy, just because I like he's done it before. And one of my favorite things he said was just talking about embracing what the city of Memphis is and talking about just from the business side, from the economic side, winning fixes all, which is something we hit on a lot in this podcast. If you win games, people are going to like you. If you don't, they won't. Yeah. But if you win games, that not only helps the athletic program, not only the football program, not only the university, but also the city. He made it akin to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. What would Tuscaloosa, Alabama be without what Nick Saban and Bear Bryant did down there, right? And he talked about how Memphis, he calls Memphis a college city, and how people in Memphis, there's the Grizzlies certainly, but people in Memphis care about sports. Mm-hmm. And if you win games, people are going to show up and they're going to care. And I think it was really cool how he talked about the value of winning. You can't put a number on it, because when people go to the game and they leave, they're going to go get something to eat. They're going to go get gas. The role isn't just about winning championships. The role of this Memphis Tigers football team is to just create more positive things. He even brought up how public schools in the city could be better funded if the University of Memphis football team wins games. And that's so cool for someone to be that aware of what their job is, right? You don't want to overemphasize what someone's job is, but it's so cool to see someone understand from day one. He just landed in Memphis and he already understands. Ed Scott also hit on it when he was like, Devin, I feel pressure every day because of where I'm at. People are counting on me, right? And at the end of the day, there's so much money funneled into college football, so much money funneled into college athletics. Ed Scott and Charles Huff have pressure on them every day. They have people relying on them. They have student athletes relying on them. But they fully accepted that, and they're fully okay with that, and they're fully moving forward with that.
Yeah. Going to Ed here for a second, I don't know about you guys, but he seemed particularly excited, not just about the hiring of Charles Huff, but just the opportunity to kind of reset and move into this new era of Memphis football. I asked him about it, and he kind of alluded to it at a few other points, but I think he kind of implied in a way that he was just as irritated with the lack of, higher level success on the field as many fans were. He flat out said multiple times, an 8-win season is disappointing at the University of Memphis, because an 8-win season means that you did not reach the precipice of the American Conference that you were expected to do. And you did not take full advantage of the money and the resources that you were provided to build a team that is designed to run through the American. He didn't say those exact words, obviously, but that was the basic gist of what I think he was trying to imply there. So when you just see the overall scope, the fact that Ed really, I think, has his guy now in Charles Huff. He vouched for him in a lot of ways throughout this process. They got it done. You see Huff embracing a lot of the philosophies that I think Memphis football fans were used to seeing during those years where they were contending for the American Conference title. He said that the two or three most important things that that to build a team around, is a mobile quarterback and guys who can get to the quarterback on the defensive side, quarterback and edge rushers, right? That's what he's revolving his whole deal around. Again, just going back to that, modern philosophy of college football there.
Right. And Memphis has been missing just like edge production. They're I guess since, funnily enough, Bryce Huff, no relation to Charles Huff, haven't had juice off the edge. And he emphasized, look, we have to get bigger and faster on the defensive line, or we're not going to win football games. And then also he talked about the 4-2-5 defense, which essentially means, look, you're running 4 guys at the quarterback. You're not blitzing all that often. If those 4 don't get pressure, you're going to get eaten alive. So that puts a huge emphasis on who's on your defensive line. And it can work great when it works great, but it also can get really ugly really fast. But he has his philosophy. He's going to run with it. He more on just, I guess, what he wants to do as a coach. I haven't been able to dive into the film of exactly who he is, but he talked about running the 4-2-5 defense. He also said, we're going to get a quarterback who can a mobile quarterback who can make plays out of the pocket. And also, we're going to get receivers who are really, really, really fast. And he said that many reallys because football becomes a lot easier when you're throwing it to the fastest guys on the field. Calvin Austin.
Shemaria. So Shemaria, when you hear all this, do you have optimism that Charles Huff can turn this around? Well, not turn this around, but get Memphis back to form. Yeah. Not turn it around, but get Memphis back to form as quickly as many are probably expecting him to do here.
And that's the question that I was going to pose to Sam specifically. Like, what exactly are the expectations for coach? Even though I think it's still kind of hard to judge because we have not seen him on a field. We haven't seen anything, but like, once again, he's got a resume that can back up what he basically said in the conference and things like that. I just expect, like, with expecting to make the conference championship be crazy.
So he kind of touched on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. We can only know the information we're fed, and the only information we know so far about him is, his resume and then what we saw today, right? Mm-hmm. And everything looked good. He answered the question of what he thinks about this roster. He said, he's not even going to be involved in the program until after the bowl game. Memphis season still isn't over. They still have a bowl game. And guess what? Odds are there's probably going to be a mass exodus. A lot of people are going to leave. He's going to bring in a lot. So I can't fully answer that because I don't know what this team's going to look like. I guess a little bit of insider information. I've heard on good authority that Antoine Hill will be back for the next season. NIL re-upped. Odds are he'll probably be the starter unless Huff just finds this guy coming in. And I think it's easy to be optimistic about one of the best recruits in program history who looked solid as a true freshman when he played. But that's just about all I know about what this team's going to look like. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Shemaria.
I think he did hit that he plans to be very active in the transfer portal and with high school recruiting. So,
well, he's going to have to be because they're going to lose a lot of guys no matter what.
Yeah,
you have to be. But again, with AJ Hill is not exactly a mobile quarterback. Now,
but he kind of re-upped and then said we got to make. Yeah.
No, Huff did say that it doesn't necessarily have to be a Lamar Jackson archetype there, but I guess it does kind of leave the question: is AJ Hill mobile enough to fit Charles Huff's vision?
Based on the way he described, no. Huff, Hill is not. He's not. Now we don't have to fully get into this. I know we've talked about it in Issues in Sports and Media class, Roman. People often think black quarterbacks are mobile because they're black. Antoine Hill,
AJ Hill is not that
mobile. He's not a mobile quarterback. He's a pocket passer.
No.
He's not a Brendan Lewis. He's no Lamar Jackson. He's no Josh Allen. So we're gonna have to see what does Charles Huff want to do with Antoine Hill. I think it's a great point that you brought that up because we just don't know yet. Is he gonna change his offense to fit one of the best recruits in program history? Who knows?
Yeah, because here's the thing. If you have a talent like AJ Hill in house, you do what it takes to retain him.
Right.
And Charles Huff seems like a guy who understands that just off first glance. But is he going to be the right fit there? I guess we'll know the answer to that question soon enough.
Right. And Arrington Maiden's in the portal here. He's entering the portal. He could still come back, but he intends to enter into the portal. And that kind of seems like the perfect type of player for Charles Huff. Improviser, good athlete, makes plays downfield. Who knows?
Well, I don't know. Arrington Maiden just isn't a great passer, though. He showed some flashes.
I'm an Arrington Maiden fan. I am.
He showed flashes, but there's a reason why they didn't trust him to throw the ball at all in the first half of the season.
Right.
There's a reason for that.
Right. Shemaria, you brought up a great question. I guess you just as a fan, seeing what you see today, or I don't know if you're a fan. Sorry to put that on you. More from just what do you expect here? I know I kind of silver fielded my way around that answer of should I expect this team to win the conference? But I kind of do, just because I kind of believe in Huff and I know the resources Memphis has. And that might be too optimistic, but I'll just have to die on that hill. What do you think, Shemaria?
I'm gonna take your word on it because once again, he's coming to a program that's well established.
Right.
Got good players coming off. I can't remember. I don't know oh my gosh, how many wins we have this season? I'm sorry, I forgot.
8-4.
Okay.
8-4, maybe 9-4.
Okay, yeah, 9-4 maybe.
No, it's 8-4. It's 8-4.
8-4. Okay, well, but
it could be 9-4 with the bowl.
Oh yeah, that's still happening.
I obviously expect better with him being as great as he is and with the resume that he has. I'm gonna take your word for it. I think conference championship is possible.
But Roman, what happens if Memphis just goes 8-4 next season? Like, are fans calling for Huff to get, because that's a completely fair possibility. First year head coach, 8-4.
Exactly.
That's hard to be like incredibly mad at. Do we riot in the street if Charles Huff goes 7-5, 8-4 next year?
Well, no, but you don't want to go 8-4, 7-5 2 years in a row, right? No. Because that was the problem. Silverfield went 6-6 in back-to-back years. Right. And I think that was the precipice of the heat beginning to turn up on him. And then you saw, even after the American got weaker and Memphis started to win more with Ryan Silverfield, the base for the anger and hostility towards him was already there. So as he didn't get it done year after year after year, that's when you found yourself in a precarious situation. One season going 8-4 will not do that for Charles Huff, nor should it.
Right. No.
But I do think it is a reasonable expectation to, get things back to a place where Memphis is at top of the American Conference, because it isn't just Charles Huff and his career at stake here. It's Ed Scott really laying his name on this first real revenue sharing big time hire. It's Memphis athletics as a whole trying to reach that next level, trying to get to the upper tier of college football and college athletics as a whole.
Right. And that's something we haven't even gotten into, but that's a whole other storyline from today.
Success on the football field is the main driver in that. And if Charles Huff doesn't work, that's going to set Memphis back even further. That's hard to say, but that's just reality. But there's nothing to suggest that's going to be the case based off of what we saw today. Again, we still have a good 7, 8, 9, 10 months before we ever see him and his team on the field. Right. So I guess it's yet to be seen. And we will we'll continue to discuss the Charles Huff situation and his hiring and what he's going to bring to Memphis football more as the weeks go on. But when we return, we will go to the hardwood, because Memphis men's basketball has a massive, massive weekend coming up against Louisville, and they got their biggest win of the season last week against Baylor. We will talk all of that and more here on Beat with BCM. We will return right after this.
I'm going to say this in my chest out now. This we watching on the court, bro. Don't tell me that look bad, bro. Don't tell me. Islo had his hand, nuts in his hand the last couple weeks. Like, y'all, they better figure this out. Jalen Wells says we know what we're doing. Like, we know what we're doing, what we're trying to do. That type of shit matters, bro. When y'all and Islo got into it, everybody had their solutions. It was like, you got to fire Islo now. Oh, John's still immature. You got to trade John now. What was I saying over here? No, man. They need to sit their monkey ass down and figure this shit out. Islo got to be in, Ja got to be in, and they'll figure this shit out. Now, I still think the shit that Islo doing is fucking weird. Like, and expecting this shit to work is crazy. But I could not say I feel the same way about this shit I felt 2 weeks ago, bro. I ain't saying I'm about to say this look good, though, man, for real.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Monday through Fridays at 1 p.m. live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. In Memphis, we know a thing or two about resilience. From the grindhouse to the Delta, we protect what's ours. But when pests invade your home, it's time to fight back. Grade A Pest knows how to handle what crawls, flies, and bites. With local experience and guaranteed results.
I'm Reggie with Grade A Pest Control. We service the Memphis metro area. That also includes DeSoto and Fayette County as well.
Grade A Pest has the entire Mid-South covered. So if bugs and pests put you to the test, let Grade A solve your problem. In the heart of the Highland Strip for 27 years, Trilogy Tattoo has helped tell stories for Memphians for generations. Located at 530 South Highland, Richie and his team are waiting to help you tell yours.
From tattoos to piercings, your body art should be as unique as you are. Voted a Memphis Flyer top 3 tattoo shop in the city of Memphis since day one. Your story will be safe here at Trilogy Tattoo.
Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 11 to 11, and 3 to 11 on Sundays. They have convenient times waiting on you. Let Trilogy Tattoo help you tell your story.
We are back on beat with BCM. Roman Cleary, Sam Shoemaker, and Shemaria Wiseman joining you once again. Thank you all for tuning into the program this week. It is time to talk some Memphis Tigers basketball, and specifically the Memphis men's basketball program. And they're coming off their biggest weekend of the season, 3 straight victories over Southern Illinois, New Orleans, and then the big win over Baylor inside FedEx Forum last Saturday. And man, it's just a couple weeks ago, it was really hard to envision the Tigers even getting to this place, considering how poorly they started the season. But like I just said, they've won 3 in a row, and they seem to have a lot of things in order here, Shemaria.
They do. They really, really do, especially with Zach Davis. And I saw the production from Aaron Bradshaw in this game.
Hey.
Best game. Well, it is his best game of the season so far. So getting production out of those two has been really, really huge for the Tigers. They're finding something. They're finding something for sure.
Yeah, no, it was a really impressive performance in a lot of areas. Memphis trailed by 8 at a point in this game. It was 53-45 with 12:42 to go. But even at that point, it never really felt like Baylor had this one in hand. It felt like Memphis was really in control of this one for the entire time. They never led by double digits. It was never really a blowout, but after about 10 minutes, there was never really a point where you felt like Memphis was going to lose this game, and subsequently They didn't. Obviously, Zach Davis and Aaron Bradshaw were the headliners here. Davis with 23 points and 13 rebounds, a double-double. Both of those are career highs. Aaron Bradshaw, who was described by multiple people as unplayable earlier in the season. He ties a career high with 17 points. Now, granted, Baylor is a great team, but they're a good team, not a great team, but they're a good team, but they have a smaller front court. So it's an easier matchup down low than you might expect. I think you saw not just Bradshaw, but Memphis's size overall overwhelm Baylor. I believe the final tally was 48-22 in terms of points in the paint. Memphis certainly capitalized and took advantage of Baylor's deficiencies down low to really kind of run away with this one. But you saw another good outing from Doug McDaniel, not necessarily from a scoring and shooting standpoint, but he got like 8 assists in this game. You saw Sincere Parker put up some good scoring off the bench. You saw Quante Berry was a 17-point game against New Orleans. Simon Majak, 4 points, 6 boards, and 3 blocks. That third one against Cameron Carr was pretty insane there. I mean, just a lot of positives to take away here, Sam, that I quite frankly think we didn't have, even just a couple weeks prior. So what did you see differently from Memphis in this one against Baylor?
Right, I roll with the information I'm given, and honestly, we were pretty harsh on Penny. Everyone was pretty harsh on Penny after that first string of losses. But in this game, 2 things can be true at once. I was impressed. I think this game showed a lot about what Penny can become and what he is becoming as a coach. Only 19 turnovers, four of them from Doug McDaniel playing 39 minutes, ball in his hands the entire game. That's not that bad. You can live with 4 Doug turnovers if he has the ball in his hands that much. But things just look good. Like the starting lineup was William Wharton, Simon Majot, Doug McDaniel, Quante Berry, Zach Davis. That's not that talented of a starting 5. And you went out and you controlled the game against a good Baylor team. We don't know exactly what Baylor is yet, but all signs point toward just being a solid Baylor team. You shot 19% from 3 of 16, and you controlled it. You're right. There wasn't a time where I thought Memphis was going to lose this game, and maybe that's hindsight being 2020 because Memphis. But like even in that New Orleans game, you controlled it from the start, of course, with that huge lead you come out to start with. And then I was very impressed with Aaron Bradshaw. Faced disciplinary actions after that or during that New Orleans game. I don't know exactly what Penny said, but I think we can all infer what it was. And
Penny described it as a coach's decision. It was made pretty clear that Aaron Bradshaw, he was a healthy scratch, right? And Memphis was missing some guys against Baylor as well. Curtis Givens remains out with a thigh injury. Thedford was sidelined against Baylor after injuring his knee against New Orleans. And Hassan Abdul-Hakim was out for what Penny described as personal reason, even though Hassan has since returned to the team. So he should be available when Memphis plays on Saturday. So it was easy for
Memphis to give up. It was. The team sucked. Everyone's injured. No one's playing well together. Bradshaw had just faced disciplinary stuff. Guys are hurt. Guys have personal reasons. I hope everything's okay there. It's easy in that scenario to give up, but why I'm impressed with, I guess, the team, but I guess it's really easy to dunk on the coach when things are down, but I definitely want to give Penny his flowers when it's just 2 wins since the last time we recorded, but they're 2 impressive wins, and I think now there's room for optimism. That was all you needed, and now people are going to start showing up to the games again. Now people are going to start taking this team serious again. People are going to start talking about it, and definitely with this 3-stretch game or this 3-game stretch we got coming up here.
Yeah, so the win against Baylor, it's borderline right now, but when it's all said and done and everything's sorted out with the net's broken right now. So
right. We don't care about that at this point.
It's hard to narrow it down, but you're gonna assume that Memphis picked up a quad 2 win, likely against Baylor. So that's
which
step.
could turn into quad 1 if Baylor locks in.
Baylor would have to finish top 30 in the net for that to be a quad 1 win since it was at home. It's hard to envision. It's hard to envision Baylor doing that,
right? Especially after that loss.
You're gonna assume that you picked up a quad 2 win with Baylor, so that's a step towards getting a tournament resume. They still have a lot of work to do, and they obviously have some opportunities coming up. And believe it or not, if things stand the way they currently are, which again the net is broken, so they likely won't. But if things currently stand the way they are, Memphis will even get some quad 1 opportunities throughout American Conference play. I think 3 or 4 projected right now with the road games against Tulane and Wichita State, USF. The game at Utah State in February is expected to be quad 1 as well. So there is actually a bit more of a path towards getting an at-large tournament resume than you may have thought there was before, especially with this win over Baylor. Now, what's going to hurt you there is the quad 4 loss against UNLV that is likely going to remain quad 4 for the season unless UNLV really picks it up at a certain point. But either way, I think you're just seeing this team improve in so many ways. And I think the most noticeable thing overall is what Penny harped on so much at the beginning of the season, and that is the fight, the intensity, the effort there. You're just seeing this team playing a lot more engaged brand of basketball. They're a lot more connected on the offensive end, and you're just seeing more engagement, more effort, more dog, more fight defensively.
Right. You're
not seeing all these open lanes to the basket anymore. You're not seeing all these open threes. Everything is contested. Everything is earned. And it still remains true that this Memphis team is not as talented as it was last year or the year before that, This is arguably still Penny's least talented or least gifted team since his first season. You can definitely make that argument. But it still appears to have the fight, and the effort and the determination and the fortitude to be able to make something of this season, especially when you consider how bad the American Conference is. The clip with Gabe Kuhn and Christian Fowler on Beat with BCM, which aired last night, that I think everyone who's watching this has probably seen at this point. They've gotten to the discussion of should you take Memphis or the field in the American. Anyone who says take the field does not know what the field looks like. I'm sorry. Yeah. I know that Memphis hasn't looked great. It's definitely looked shaky at times, but the American is terrible. It's terrible, guys. It's bad. It's like as bad as you thought it was last year or the year before. I can promise you it's worse. There's no Eric Gaines. There's no Yaxel Lindeborg. There's none of that. It's very sparse of talent and ability, and Memphis is going to be far more gifted than practically every team that plays in that league. I guess you can maybe say South Florida compares a little bit because they have a bit of high major talent, but it's still not to the level of Memphis. This is likely going to end up being an all-time bad season in the American. And if Memphis can't win this league, they're as bad as the Tubby team. And if you look at them on the court, you can clearly tell they're not. I mean, maybe things will change, but that's just the way that I think, things stand at the moment. But moving on from Baylor, big weekend coming up here, guys. For the first time in 8 years, Memphis-Louisville. Shemaria, what does that mean to you, first off? Memphis-Louisville back, first time 8 years.
There's a lot of history between these two teams. If I'm not mistaken, they renewed the rivalry 2017's a 6-year basketball scheduling agreement. So this was coming, but the rivalry means a lot. So, yeah.
Right. The last time that Louisville came to the FedEx Forum. So for anyone who doesn't know, I didn't grow up a Tiger fan, but it was the one Memphis Tiger basketball game I went to as a child. And it was Memphis hosting Louisville, and they got down like 15 late into the game. Montrezl Harrell was going crazy. And then the Tigers ended up coming back, but my dad told me we had to leave. So I didn't get to see it. So maybe I'm bad luck. I know, Roman, you'll be in Louisville. You'll be there to attend. Maybe the Tigers will have a better chance because I won't be there. But Roman, what does this mean to you? This is exciting. You know the history. Everyone watching knows the history. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I know that Memphis-Louisville is more of a 70s and 80s thing from a long-term history standpoint, but I was born in 2004, man. All right? Like, we were all born in the 2000s. When I think of Memphis-Louisville, I think of, like Sam mentioned before, the 2013-14 season where Memphis swept Louisville, that legendary game at FedEx Forum, beating them at KFC Yum Center. I think about that. I think about Darius Washington, right? I think about the early 2000s matchups between John Calipari and Rick Pitino in Conference USA. I know the rivalry wasn't then what it was in the 80s. I know it wasn't, but that's what I think of with Memphis-Louisville.
It was all Memphis had, so they definitely held on to it. For better or worse.
Right. But regardless of what you think of or where you stand, or what era you may be from, having Memphis-Louisville back in the fold is just it's just an awesome thing, not just for Memphis, not just for Louisville, but just for college basketball as a whole.
Yeah.
Because there was a time where this was one of the rivalries in the sport. And regardless of, what this particular game may offer us this weekend, it's just amazing to see it back. But going on what to expect this weekend, Sam mentioned I will be in Louisville covering this one. I'm never been up there before, so it's going to be interesting. Never been to the KFC Yum Center, one of the premier venues in college basketball, of course. So it's going to be cool and interesting to experience that atmosphere and environment. But in terms of what to expect from this actual game, I think Memphis will keep it competitive. I haven't published my preview yet. That will publish tomorrow morning. But just for a quick spoiler, I'm expecting Louisville winning this one. it's going to be more interesting likely than I probably would have said a week ago. But ultimately, Louisville is just too talented. They're too explosive offensively, 93.8 points per game, one of the best offenses in college basketball, top 50 scoring defense as well. They distribute a lot of assists. They don't turn the ball over. And when Memphis faces teams that are efficient, don't turn the ball over, that typically spells disaster, even for good Tigers teams, high-level ones. So I just don't think this matchup is particularly favorable, especially on the road. But I do think that the performance against Baylor inspires a bit more confidence there. What for either of you guys, are you expecting anything different?
Shemaria.
No, I expect Louisville to take the dub.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to expect anything different, but, just outside looking in, there's definitely room to be optimistic just because what you've seen. I will say, Roman, you can go up and down the roster. This team is star-studded offensively. You got so many guys who can go. A lot of Memphis fans, one of Memphis fans' least favorite players in college basketball. Roman, you know where I'm about to go. Kayshawn Pryor, former USF guy who we all remember in that snow game, was talking crazy to the couple hundred, maybe 1,000 fans in attendance. He's averaging 7 minutes a game, 2 points a game. Roman, what's going on there? Because I know he was pretty highly touted transfer, got injured. Now is he just not the same player?
Yeah, he just hasn't really been good, and he was good last year. He had 12 points a game last year, 6.1 boards, but he just has.
But he only played like 7 games right before he got hurt, or something like that.
Yeah. Now, that's right. He
was a stud at South Florida.
Yeah, he was. He led the charge in that snow game, of course. Again, Pryor has been so low down the totem pole that my research wasn't really focused on him, just to kind of paint the picture there. I mean, when you got Ryan Conwell to focus on, and future NBA first round pick and Michael Brown Jr., Isaac McNeely, who Memphis has some history with, obviously, with Virginia. Memphis actually shut him down pretty decently 2 years in a row there. So I'm sure McNeely is looking for something of a bounce back against Memphis. Very dangerous three-point shooter in him. And you have a few other solid guys off the bench like Javon Woodley. But Sam, to your point, this Louisville team is stacked from top to bottom, especially from an offensive standpoint. So I'd say it's definitely going to be a challenge for Memphis. They likely shouldn't expect a win here, but if they do somehow find a way to get a W, it would definitely change the season in a lot of ways. Real quickly, let's go to our Mugshots player of the week, of course, sponsored by Mugshots Grill and Bar. Check them out in all the Mid-South locations, whether it's in Collierville, Olive Branch, Starkville, or the many other ones. It's just a fantastic place to go watch a game and hang out and all that stuff. It's just great to have them partnering with us for this segment once again. Hopefully we will be having another Tigers Live watch party over there sooner rather than later in the West Poplar, Collierville location. But our Mugshots player of the week for the men's things is, let's just be honest, it's Zach Davis. Talked about it earlier, 23 points, 13 boards, 2 steals. By far his best game of the season and probably the best game of his college basketball career as well. But it's also hard to dismiss the performance of Aaron Bradshaw. We were, super tough on both those guys earlier in the year.
We were.
I do think it's fair to say that Zach Davis has fully redeemed himself, though. He's fully bounced back, played well in the Baha Mar tournament, has put up good numbers since then, and I think he fully cemented himself as being a major player for this team against Baylor. I'd expect him to be a full-time starter moving forward. As for Aaron Bradshaw, I don't think he's fully out of the woods yet. I still think he needs to prove himself against, higher level front courts, bigger front courts. And again, just proving that he can continue to do it from a mental standpoint on a night-to-night basis. But certainly great performances from both of them, especially Zach Davis, who is once again our men's basketball Mugshots player of the week. But real quickly to end this show, we're going to be going to women's basketball real quickly here, Shemaria, because they lost yet again to Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro. Just another rough one for the Tigers, and they're really sliding here, 3 losses in a row now. So what do you see happening there?
It's just once again, it's the offense. It is the offense. Another big part of this game was free throws. Not free throws, fouling was an issue. The Tigers had racked up 31 fouls. We also saw multiple players foul out in this game. Shay Harris got in early foul trouble, so she was limited on minutes. You didn't really see her perform at her best until the fourth quarter. So obviously her being out. Deja Richmond was a player that also got in foul trouble in this game too. And she was the player she was the only player who had made more than one field goal for the whole first half. It was atrocious. And then to have both of your leading scorers in foul trouble, the Tigers weren't coming out with this dub. I just knew it. In the third quarter, we did see production from Jordan Hunter, which is the player of the week. She came out with a swing, had 11 points in the third quarter. The only other player that scored in that quarter was Brooklyn Charlo, where she knocked down a three. But as you can see, Jordan Hunter, she finished the game with 14 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, two steals, and went 2 for 4 from behind the arc. But yeah, it's just just not seeing offensive production from a lot of the players. Down low, it was bad. They were getting out rebounded as well. Not much production from the front court either. Paris Gaines did not appear in this game. She did not play. I'm still trying to get information on why she didn't play. I don't have that yet. Once I get the information, I will put it out there. But she didn't play. One thing that I am concerned about is just not seeing the improvement from Bailey Gilmore specifically. Last season, she played a lot of minutes because the Tigers were just depleted. They suffered a lot of injuries last season. She's been coming in mainly when certain players are in foul trouble and things like that, and just hasn't been great, or it hasn't been as good as we haven't seen the improvements from her this season that we thought were going to transfer over. But just a bad offensive game. And if the Tigers don't figure this out before conference play, they're in, I don't know what to say for Coach Simmons.
It's hard just because it's hard to remain optimistic, obviously, because they're losing. But also the team, they just don't have the players, and you're putting so much on the shoulders of Shay Harris. And then when she gets into foul trouble, like I got to catch about half of this game, the ball swings. No one looks at the rim. They're catching it and swinging it. They're catching it and holding it. They're not looking at the rim because honestly, they're not that good to make a move one-on-one and get a bucket. You talked about Paris Gaines not appearing. She's had her struggles this year. She, turnovers and efficiency, yada, yada. But like,
I think she would.
If you want this team to have a higher ceiling, in the similar manner to some of those guys on the men's team, a lot rides on her shoulders because she's one of the few players who has the ability to get buckets. And when you don't have players with the ability to just even look at the rim, like Corey Allen has started, I think, every game this season. She's getting cardio in. And that's no disrespect to her, but she just cannot score the ball. Janacia Spires, she doesn't. She's a true freshman, good athlete, good, I guess, like floor player. Both the Alexanders, Bailey Gilmore, they just are not hoopers. They're basketball players. They're not hoopers. They're not looking at the rim. Maybe some of this is coaching, because I'm sure in high school they probably did get buckets, right? But you have Shay Harris, and then Deja Richmond. Those are your only 2 bucket getters. And then maybe an Amari Williams back to the basket, Tamaya Smith on a cut. But it's just outside of that, you just don't have any buckets. And when you're scoring 51 points against MTSU, it's really hard to win games. And yeah, I'm definitely disappointed. And just a lot of these bench, and like Brooklyn Charlo, she's the only shooter on the team outside of Shay Harris. But when she catches the ball, I mean, she's a true freshman. I get it. All she can do is shoot the 3. She spot up, nothing else. I don't think she's put the ball on the floor all season. And that might be coaching. I don't know. But you have like 2 players who can actually get a bucket. Guess what MTSU did? They guarded 2 players. Memphis is easy to play against. They don't put fear into anyone. And how they're going to win games is Shay Harris going crazy. And guess what? She's going to do that. And that's going to do some damage for you in the American. But it's discouraging because there's not that much to figure out because you just don't have the players. And that's kind of hard to come to terms with. Maybe that's harsh. Roman?
Yeah, but is it going to do anything for you in the American if you're losing the MTSU? Just with all due respect?
No. No. But Shea is good enough to win you games. She just didn't win this one and got in foul trouble.
Shemaria, in many ways, not to be facetious, it just feels like this team is kind of hitting a lull, like kind of settling into what they maybe are here. Is that fair to say at this point?
I think that's very, very fair to say. In the past couple of games they played, and it's weird because you see them fight. We saw them fight against Florida and do what they did, but then once again you're losing to teams that you should be defeating, and then that just messes like the vision or what you think this team could be. It just messes everything up. Like MTSU, from my understanding, they're not great. They're not a great offensive team. They're more so a defensive minded team, but they look great against they did okay against this Memphis defense. They won.
Well, they got Murray State coming up on Monday.
Murray State's a good team. Murray State's really good. And they're historically good, and they're good this season.
I mean, we'll be here by the time, but we'll know what happened in that one by the time we're back here next week. Shemaria, what are you kind of expecting from the Tigers in this one?
This is a team that made the NCAA tournament last year, currently 7-2. They're being led by a dominant forward in Charnice Curry-Jelks, a high-powered offensive team. They're efficient at scoring. I know the Tigers are great defensively, but as we've seen in the games played, sometimes their defense just isn't enough to win a game. And so I think that Murray State will definitely take this dub against the Tigers on Monday.
Yeah, big picture. You got what's their record right now? 4-6, and then you got Murray State. Hard to imagine a win there. And then Southeast Louisiana and Rust, those are you really got to have those. Surely you'll beat Rust. Southeast Louisiana, you're a lot better than. So you're entering conference play at what 6-7. Don't make me laugh. You're 6-7 here, and then there's just not much room for confidence here. Roman, what do you think about just the outlook of this team?
Yeah,
I mean, they're not losing in the same ways that they did last year. It seems like the script is kind of flipped. Last year, they were this super high-powered offensive group that couldn't stop anybody. And now this year, they actually seem like to be a pretty decent defensive team, but they don't have anyone besides a spot-up three-point shooter who can score the ball. They don't have anyone who can just take it to the cup at will. They don't have anyone who can really create. And when you don't have a true initiator on the offensive end of the floor, it just makes things really difficult to get things going there, even if you have someone like Shea Harris who can shoot the lights out of the ball. So it just seems like there are some problems offensively that this Memphis team is unable to fix in terms, like if you just look at the personnel that's available, and it just doesn't seem like they're in a great situation. They're going to have to really turn things around in the American, or as we mentioned towards the beginning of the season, things about this program and maybe even Alex Simmons from a long-term standpoint, they can get dicey there. But we'll just have to wait and see. Memphis still has the opportunity to turn things around. But real quickly, Shemaria, you already mentioned it. Jordan Hunter is your Mugshots player of the week on the women's side. And I think it's fair to say that heading into the season, she was probably the most high-profile name that Memphis landed out of the transfer portal, coming in from Auburn, being a highly touted high school recruit, things like that. It's taken her a little while to get going here, but if there is anything to be encouraged about, it was what she did against Middle Tennessee State there.
For sure. And so far this season, she's had 3 big games where she's had double digits in points. And I do feel like she can be, if she finds her groove, she can be that other person offensively that can, put up shots, for the team. She did start the season off starting in the 5, but now she comes off the bench primarily due to Deja Richmond has started now. But yeah, expected much more out of Jordan Hunter, but she's had at least 3 games where she's shown up for sure. So she's definitely player of the week. 11 points in the third quarter was big for Memphis, even though they lost.
Well, that is going to wrap us up here for this edition of On Beat with BCM. Next week, we will be airing the show live on Wednesday at 4 o'clock instead of 7, because Memphis is, of course, playing Vanderbilt inside FedEx Forum at 6 o'clock on next Thursday. Very big game for them. So this show will be airing at 4 p.m. live here on the Bluff City Media Network. So be sure to tune in next week at 4 for that. But for Sam Shoemaker, for Shemaria Wiseman, and for everyone here on BCM, this is Roman Cleary signing out. We will see you all next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On Beat with BCM. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to the Bluff City Media YouTube page. We'll see you back here next time.